I find it extraordinary and an alarming contradiction that while our Parliament is debating assisted dying, which is a profoundly complex ethical issue in its own right, our hospices, the bedrock of compassionate end-of-life care, are in some sort of existential crisis. Currently, 300 hospice beds in England lie closed or out of use, not due to a lack of need, but a lack of funding and staff. And this is out of a total of just 2,200 beds, a capacity already insufficient to meet the demand. Yet, as Rachel Macmillan, Chief Executive of St Anne's Hospice, aptly says, we're not a nice-to-have service, we are a fundamental service to the health and social care services across the country. And this raises an uncomfortable question, doesn't it? How can we expand the ethical frontiers of end-of-life care while neglecting the most basic infrastructure needed to provide dignity to those in their final days? 2/3 of hospice funding currently comes from donations and fundraising. Imagine relying on bake sales and charity events to keep critical care services afloat. It is, as Macmillan says, not sustainable, and these financial shortfalls put hospices in a position of tragic irony, providing care to the most vulnerable while being vulnerable themselves to the neglect of the system. Hospice UK has called, therefore, for urgent reform, requesting £110 million in immediate government funding. Yet this is not merely about plugging gaps, it's about fundamentally rethinking how hospices are integrated into the NHS and social care. As Annette Alcock, the Hospice UK's Director of Programmes, points out, the way hospices are funded and commissions acts as a huge cap on their potential. The assisted dying debate looms large over all of this crisis, and proponents of the bill argue for greater autonomy in end-of-life decisions. But how meaningful is choice when they cannot access adequate palliative care? A dignified death is not simply about the option to end life, it's about ensuring the conditions to live one's final days with comfort, dignity and humanity. Without robust hospice care, therefore, the choice between assisted dying and suffering becomes a false dichotomy. This is a monumental ethical and practical challenge that we cannot ignore. Hospices are uniquely positioned to deliver the kind of community care the government ostensibly prioritises. Most hospice care happens at home, aligning perfectly with patient preferences and reducing pressure on hospitals. However, chronic staff shortages, inadequate funding, and bureaucratic inefficiencies means that this potential remains untapped. I don't understand how it can be that the bureaucrats in the NHS, in NHS England, at the top of all our NHS trusts, are creaming the profit off the system, while the essential services which should be delivered are stymied and are failing. The £26 billion investment announced in the Chancellor's budget sounds promising, but let's have an ask. Where is the allocation for end-of-care life in that? If we fail to support hospices now, we are risk losing not just beds, but the invaluable expertise and the compassion that defines palliative care. The crisis needs immediate action. The government must provide short-term relief through funding and long-term reform in commissioning models and working out what is actually necessary to make sure this vital part of our healthcare is maintained. Public understanding of hospice care as an essential service, not a luxury, also needs to shift. We cannot afford to treat hospices as a forgotten arm of healthcare. They are quite literally where life's final chapter is written. So we need to ensure that that chapter is one of dignity and compassion and is not neglected and dismissed because, there's something else more exciting on the horizon: assisted dying.